Welcome. Today I have a special guest with me. Rick Halbert is one of my past students. He's taken a couple of classes with me in the actual classroom. And I want to talk today to Rick about his journey in photography, about where he's come from and what kind of struggles he encountered along the way and where he's at now. Because I think a lot of you might relate to his story. Welcome, Rick. Thanks for talking to me today.
Well, Darlene, thanks for the invitation. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And as you know, I can be long in the tooth on conversations, so I will try to limit this to the bullet points that are very important to this talk that we're having.
No worries. So as I mentioned, you got into photography not that long ago. So can you tell me how long ago you got into photography and why did you start doing photography in the first place? What was it that attracted you?
The photography piece, and thank you very much for that. I've probably owned a camera, like everyone, basically all their lives. And it was snaps and snaps and snaps. And not until much later in life did I actually look at wanting to be better at it. And when I say better at it, I mean more competent in the respect of knowing the lighting, knowing how to operate the equipment without using A for automatic.
Gotcha. Giving off the little green box on the...
Yeah, the dial, which a little thing that was pointed out to me, M for mastery, and yeah, and P for professional. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And which I always thought really funny. And really that was, I think that's really how we first got together, was just really understanding DSLR basics. So I did do, originally it was film, and not in my own developing or anything like that, but shooting with kit lenses that came with the cameras.
So you were still working a full-time job when you started photography, right? Okay.
Correct.
And so your intention was just, you wanted to do it because it was fun and your spare time?
What I found was I looked down the road in that respect because I have a yearning for creativity. Is not always is that in the genre that I was working in that respect. So I needed something on the other side. I also looked at with that is as I got closer and closer to retirement, which is an issue for a lot of people, is they've done something for 45 years and then it changes where you've got in your own mind nothing.
Right.
You can travel a little bit, you can do some gardening a little bit, and then all of a sudden and take care of your grandchildren if they're there, and then all of a sudden you're left with a very large void of being able to contribute. And this contribution is not for the community outside, it's more of a personal development piece. I have created something, I like what I've created, and it gives me that sort of validation that I've still got it. And
that you've got some value in the world.
I've got some value.
You're not going to retire and we're not putting you in the ground just yet. Right?
Exactly. Okay. Like no one can fire me. They can certainly ridicule me, but or on the other side, because a lot of those kinds of things, people automatically default to the negative.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, because I think I like the way that you planned ahead for retirement, thinking, okay, I'm going to need something to occupy my time. You found something of interest and then you went for it. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of sort of, you started taking some classes and so on. What did you find the most challenging? Which aspects of photography were the most challenging for you at the beginning?
Other than just pulling the lens cap off, it was challenging because knowing what you see and what you want to capture and then pressing that button and not getting what you want is very frustrating. And I've always been one to, okay, if you don't understand it, then take a class and then work from the education that you've been. And it has taken me a long time to really fully understand what's been expressed through the classes that I've been involved with you, and even outside of that with involvement with you. And I felt that I just wanted to have better shots, because when I look at other people's pictures, professional photographers or hobbyists, amateurs at best, and I go, I really like that, but I don't know why.
Mm.
So I go to a class to help me understand, why is that a good photo? And is it the expense of the camera? No, not at all. And I know you professed that several times in our classes, as well as on the online piece, is it isn't the quality of the camera. It is how you use you don't blame your tools, tradesman. It is,
Right.
it is the tradesman. So I'm hoping that sort of gives a little insight on what it
Right.
is
The
that.
chef doesn't say that the pan cooked a bad meal, right?
That's exactly right. And I'm glad you touched on that little one, is the creative part of previous professions that I've had is always that. You're looking at the creative aspect of things, whether it's home or work or a hobby, is always a yearning.
And I have to say, just for the people listening, that Rick is a very skilled barbecue craftsman as well.
Yeah, yeah. Beer and ribs. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, just as a question, sort of, you mentioned that you took classes with me, and I know you've done other classes before.
I have.
And I don't want to toot my own horn, but what was it about the class that you took with me that was different than the others? Because I know we really connected, not just as a teacher student, but as human beings and
Mhm.
related. And so what was it that we connected on, or you connected with me on?
Well, you know what? I think you've even answered your own question. It's the fact that there wasn't a line between instructor and student, and we were all in it together. To that, we had a common interest, which is very human. We had a common interest to get you to bring our skill level up, and for you, the reward is seeing the light bulb. and
Totally.
and and like I even to this day, there are things in our classes and things that are only making sense to me now, not because it was difficult, but until you experience what's being taught, and then you recall, oh, that's what that means. So I guess that's what I look at, is the fact that you're very personable. There was never any standoffishness about, well, this person's not getting it, so I'm going to move over to the person that's getting it. And it was almost the reverse of that, is like, they're getting it, they're okay, let them experiment and practice and whatever. And then the individuals that needed a little bit more assistance were able to take advantage of that with you.
Well, thank you for that. And I always like to, like I tell people when they come to workshops or classes or anything that, we had a lady that in one workshop I did recently, she felt like she was behind everybody else, and then maybe it wasn't appropriate or whatever. And I said, no, everybody's at a different place in their journey, right? And like you probably have skills in other areas that I don't have, like you have barbecue skills and whatever your day job was. I don't even know what your day job was, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. Good of you to get really in deep with where I'm coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
And so whatever skills person has at the time,
Yeah.
doesn't make you a lesser person. It just means you haven't done that thing as much, right? I have a lot of experience in photography, 30
Yeah.
plus years, as a pro and then some. So don't expect to be where I am and achieve what I do in 30 seconds. It's going to take you a few
Yeah.
minutes maybe, or like you said, a year later, the light bulb goes off and went, oh, that's what she was doing,
Yeah.
So I try and get people to be gentle on themselves in their own journey, right?
We're our best taskmasters, for sure. We beat ourselves up. And I remember in one of the classes when you were giving percentages for 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1
Ratios, okay.
or ratios, and and you gave us books to go through and look at the pictures and go, okay, can you tell me what this is? And sometimes it's subjective, but a lot of times it isn't. They're defined rules in photography. And I bullshitted my way through that.
That's
I
okay.
fabricated answers going, oh, best guess scenario. And really, until you And so I had to, that was my takeaway, is to literally study how light falls, natural, studio, ambient, as well as reflective, like all of the things that are involved in that. And I still, to this day, do not see light the way I would like to. It is way better than it ever has been, but it's an ongoing process.
Totally. I mean,
And
when I was in college, I mean, I took a 2-year photography program, and my instructor said to me, when you have your own studio, you won't need a light meter. You'll just know what the exposure is. And I'm like, he's out of his mind, right? But I mean, now you have your own studio, right? If you put this light
correct.
here and this light there, do you have to
Yeah.
meter it? Probably
No,
not so
no.
much, because it's the same all the time. And you also start to get a feel for these things, right? So it's about that, putting in your 10,000 hours. Okay, so
Yes.
another thing I wanted to ask you is about, you talk about some of the struggles and things and what was difficult at the beginning.
Yeah.
What did you do? What steps did you take to overcome some of the hurdles?
My particular nature is I would talk to as many people as I could, for whose work that I admired. And if I knew them, I may reach out. Not everybody is as generous as yourself, whether it's a classroom situation or post-classroom situation. And what I found is I would do a lot of reading. I would do a lot of research on the internet, so I could have some background and be able to ask what I would consider educated questions. Instead of just going, I can't figure out lighting. Well, what lighting are you trying to figure out? Whether it be natural lighting scenarios, indoor with window light, those kinds of things. And it was just a matter of trying to because you're not always able to reach out to somebody when it strikes you.
Right, in that moment. And you don't know what you don't know. So how do you know what
And
questions to ask, right?
very good. Like that. Like I don't know how many times going, I'm not sure I know how to formulate the question. So you're right. You don't know what you don't know. And I truly believe that it's human nature to not want to look foolish in front of somebody. Like the example you just made, she's just insecure about using her equipment, and you have to really transcend that. Like you really have to go, I'm 5 years old again. I can
Mhm.
barely speak the language. And so there are some nuances and tools that are available, which are provided through these kinds of things, classrooms, tours, that kind of thing.
So you almost have to get over yourself, right? Like there's a book that I love. It's actually called Feel the Fear, Do It Anyway, and it talks about, it's courage is not the lack of fear, right? It's
Correct.
action in spite of fear, right?
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
that. Okay, I'm terrified of this thing, but I'm going to do it anyways, right? So how long has this process been for you now? Like, when did you first start seriously, you know, delving into the world of photography?
I would say, as I started to glimmer, it's been a 10-year process. There's
Wow.
no doubt about it. And I would say only in the last 5 years have the things start to come together where I can actually uh, look at my product and go, okay, I'm getting there. I really don't ever believe you get there, because then you stop working on it and you default.
So I just
Okay.
brought
Whoa!
up, I just
That
brought up
scared
some
me.
Rick's images on the screen here. So I'm hoping they show up in the video, but if they don't, we'll I'll put them down below in
Okay.
the article as well. So some of your past work, like maybe you can just sort of mention about, what you feel you've improved upon in the last few years that you weren't doing so well at in the past years, and if you want to point out any examples from the images
Okay.
here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to move the screen over a little bit down to here. Okay. I think because my personal ability outside of a camera is been, I can talk to anybody at any time. That's not an issue.
Shyness is not your issue. No,
Not in that respect.
no.
And what I looked at was, there is a tendency, what I thought, where I've been able to grow is you'll notice in the shots of the lady in the burgundy top where it's the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the, except maybe the sleeping baby,
Oh,
is
but he's very
what I
cute.
looked at was, yeah, what I looked at was I was just taking a picture. There was no thought really of the individual that I was
Uh-huh.
taking a picture of, other than there was somebody in front of me
Uh-huh.
called the subject. And as I started to develop that, because when you have, no matter what your camera equipment is, if you have a bigger lens or a bigger body or a smaller body with a bigger lens on it, that's fairly intimidating to people that you're actually shooting them.
Right.
And I think being able to create that ease from the person that you're taking the picture of, whether it be a family member, total stranger in that respect, or in some of these cases, they're contrived shots in studio. And, you know, I look at that and I'm going, that was probably the key factor for me, is being able to look through the eyes of the soul and then bring out from that character a personality. That was really what I was trying to develop all of this time.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, so it's more of a rapport with your subject. So
Yes.
you feel like you've kind of moved past some of the technical things, and now you're working on the aesthetic, if it, as it were, or the connections with the other human being, like you said, in front of your lens. Because when somebody sits in front of your camera, they are extremely nervous most of the time. Um, it's right up there. I think it's like number 3 in terms of things that people are afraid of. It's right
Wow.
behind public speaking and the dentist, and maybe even death. Like, it's up there, right?
Yeah.
Sitting for a photo is right up there among like the dentist. Like,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people
I
would
can see
rather
that.
go get drilled in the tooth than have their picture taken. And if you've ever done any family pictures, I can certainly attest to that, that it's often the man that is least comfortable.
Yes.
So if you can make some kind of connection with people and make them feel comfortable, that's a skill as well. Absolutely.
And,
So did you want to add something to that?
no, I was just going to say, in one of your classes, when you talked about posing, when we're taking shots and making people feel relaxed, how guys have a tendency, you're absolutely right, to stand there like a brick,
Yeah. Or the
hair
fig leaf
on,
pose, the fig leaf.
tight,
Yeah.
you know, and not, even though it could be with their family and they should be relaxed, it's just an attitude. But so, yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I have a perfect example that I was doing a family portrait once, and it was like a 3 generation thing. But the dad, so not the grandfather, the dad, he just seemed really grumpy, and he was
Yeah.
like stern in all the photos. And I kind of said to him, I go, I just took him aside. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, you know what? I had a really crap day at work. I'd rather be somewhere else. There's a game on. I'd rather be watching at home with a cold beer. And I said, I totally get that. I totally get that. I totally respect that. And we kind of had this little, I told him something that went on for me. And then, I had some kind of crap day, but I said, you know what? I'm still here doing my job. So the quicker you can participate and, put on a happy face for your family, the quicker you can get home to the game. And guess what? Got the expressions, because I sympathize with the guy, and I'd probably be rather watching the game too. But anyways,
Well, there's lots of times we'd rather be doing something
something
else,
else. Yeah.
and I get it, and I think you're right. Just get the tooth pulled, and you can leave,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's good. The more you whine about it, the longer it's going to take.
Exactly. So I want to leave people with one last thing. So
Yep.
if somebody is in the position you were at, say 5 or 10 years ago, what kind of
Yep.
advice would you give them if they're just starting in photography? And tell us a little bit about, what you're doing now, because you're
Okay.
actually making somewhat of a living from photography now. So that's
Yes.
really
Yeah.
impressive. So yeah, advice and where you are now.
Advice to myself in the past would
That's a
have
good one.
been least, and I'll steal a line: get over yourself. Do not wallow in that, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to read the camera manual. And if any of you have ever read a camera manual, it has absolutely everything you need to know, but you don't know what you're reading.
It's boring as
So
all get out.
it is. I can't profess enough going to classes, taking travel tours like what you offer, where it's a relaxed environment, so that is gone. It's not that static classroom feel, and it is a group of individuals, but it's also one-on-one. And I think that's what a lot of people look for. I used to. It's not like I need to, do you do private lessons? Because I don't want to, yeah, and everyone does. But I look at, there's a cost. The purchase price for equipment, no matter what level, is extensive. Not everybody has a bottomless wallet. I didn't win the lottery yet. So I look at that. What that's taken me to is an appreciation for the professionals that I do consider professional, and the work that no one knows they have done to get to where they're at. Mm. So I look at, what is my satisfaction in that respect is the fact that I know now, when I look at the printed photos that I still have, I can't believe how far I've come. And it's not like they were absolutely awful. The composition wasn't very good. The lighting wasn't very good. They're still pleasing photos because I recognize the family dog. I recognize the family vacation. So that's what I looked at from my growth. This point forward, it is the same difficulty. Even though I've transcended 10 years, 5 years in the more recent past, it is still a challenging process because you never really learn everything. And there's always a different twist out there on the same thing. And that's probably two things. Greatest reward is the fact that I've experienced some good luck in growth and been able to have a product that I can, to a certain group of individuals, regain some income. And obviously the contact with individuals such as yourself, because it's been, I don't know how long, it's probably been 3 or 4 years since I've actually taken a class from you. Mm-hmm. You've moved from that in that degree, and yet here we are. So I look at that.
Awesome. I love that you touched on, having experiences and doing different things too, and everybody learns in different ways. And,
yeah.
We also, I have the online class, and not everybody can get to a physical class. So correct. Sometimes that's an option, if you live in a rural area, or yes. Time is a factor, or, any of those things. Right. So I would just add to that, again, be gentle on yourself wherever you are in the process of learning, and don't compare yourself to others. I say this a lot of times, don't take your work and say, oh, well, my work, sucks compared to this guy. Well, how about compared to your work from a year ago, or like, yes. 5 or 10 years ago? Because then you're going to feel better about yourself. Right. And as long as you're seeing progress year after year with your own work, and you're backing it up on hard drives that don't fail.
Oh, right? As soon as I said that last statement, I'm going, I better throw that in there. Can I just?
Yes, please.
Briefly, okay. So, probably from one of the first classes, and that always comes up in a class, somebody puts up their hand and goes, how do you back up? And you pointed out, and geez, did I ever feel not very smart. Who backs up their material? Up goes the hand. Where do you back it up to? Well, there's a bit of a pause, and I'm going, yeah, where am I actually backing it up to? I'm backing up my own material on my own hard drive, thinking that I'm backing it up, and I'm not backing it up. I'm actually duplicating it. Yes, thank you. So what ended up happening, that was back in about 2008 or 9. First hard drive crashed, lost an awful lot of photos. And from that point, from recommendations from you about using peripherals, I haven't got to a point of doing a lot of off-site stuff, but I have peripherals that I download a majority of my product to. So I've got it for ease of access in case anything happens. Well, lo and behold, 4 months ago, another computer crashed whilst I was in the process of stripping the goods off of that computer and putting it on a backup.
Oh, no.
But that was procrastination. That's all that really was I'll get to it. Mm-hmm. And the day you get to it, bang. So
Well, that's the thing. You don't have a problem until you have a problem.
until you have a problem.
Yeah.
And believe me, that's the needle that I have in my neck from you constantly is back it up properly, Rick.
Well, do you want to know why I'm so big on that? Is because it's happened to me too, right? So,
Yeah.
I can put my hand up and say, okay, I made some dumb things as well because
Mm,
initially when I was using Lightroom or in my early days, Lightroom had
mhm.
a thing where, you can make an automatic second copy of your files when you're downloading your card. So I did that, except that I was renaming my files on the main drive after the fact. The backup didn't get renamed. So my hard drive crashed and I thought, oh, no problem. I have a backup.
Yeah.
Lightroom didn't recognize any of them because they're
Yeah.
all the old camera file names. So literally all the work that I had done on them, all of the editing, the images were still there. I didn't lose the images, but
Yeah.
the work that I had done to them was all gone. And then just recently I had kind of a panic attack actually because we realized that so the way that I have now is I have a big drive sitting down here. It's like
Yeah.
8 terabytes. And then we back up to a hard drive in the basement, which is like our cloud drive, this like 30
Yeah.
terabytes or something.
Oh,
It's massive, but it's like our entertainment unit as well. So it has music
yeah.
and everything, videos, all that stuff on it. And then from there, everything backs up to S3 Amazon in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah.
found out that my drive was not backing up to the basement and the basement one wasn't backing up to the thing. So I realized that about 2 years worth of my stuff hadn't been backed up. So it is now, but I had a little panic attack that, if something had happened, I would have lost 2 years worth of not only work, but images. So even though you have your systems, there's another lesson for you. Check
Yeah.
them periodically. It's kind of like
Yeah.
checking your fire, your smoke alarm
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
periodically. Push the button every now and then, make
Yeah.
sure it's working. Check it, right? So we don't want. I don't want to end that on everybody's preaching about the backing up system, but leave everybody with something positive to think about, which is enjoy the journey. Wherever you are in that process, as long as you're enjoying it, don't make it a chore for yourself. If you've taken up photography as a hobby, as something that you enjoy doing in your spare time, whatever you do, keep enjoying it. And if you love your images and nobody else does, who cares? keep doing it, right? Thanks for joining me, Rick. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you very much, Darlene. Really enjoyed this.
Best of luck with your work. I know you're doing great things.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Take care.